What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Six Rings Cane Show. Joined here by almost knocking stuff down here everywhere in my in my room. What's going on, Blue, DJ, Vish? How you guys holding up tonight?
Good,
Can't
no
complain.
problems.
Awesome.
2 weeks away, man. 2 weeks away.
Oh my gosh, that's right. 2 weeks away. Pretty exciting. Obviously, we got a lot to cover today in a short amount of time. But some exciting stuff. We'll definitely cover we'll recap the scrimmage that happened Saturday night, and then moving forward, what some of the stuff that went down there, how it's going to kind of translate to further on down the road as far as who started, who didn't, who got the most time, who played the best, so on and so forth. A lot of good nuggets that we have going on for the spring. I want to say spring scrimmage all the time, but it's actually the fall scrimmage. So we'll definitely get into that. I want to start off with something that's become a pretty hot topic lately for Miami Hurricanes fans. That has nothing to do with the players, believe it or not. It has nothing to do with the actual team per se. But look, we all love to do it, and we'll get to our sponsors in a second. But real quick, we all like to tailgate. We all like to party for these games, right? That's half of it, right? Let's be honest. Half of
It's
the
become
people,
all of it.
well, yeah, right.
Yeah,
The past
the last 20 years, it's been everything.
The last 20 years has been all about the tailgating, right? And obviously, we've seen the stadium go through a lot of changes, a lot of shifts. The most recent one has obviously been, the biggest concern with F1 being there. Now they built a circuit around the stadium. How that's gonna eat into the parking spaces, the tailgating areas for the Hurricanes for game day. So. I want to get into that, but right before we get into that, I want to give it up to one of our sponsors, PrizePicks. Before we get going, let's talk a little bit about PrizePicks. It's the official daily fantasy app of the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Make sure you're using the code 5 FIVE when you sign up, and PrizePicks will actually match your initial deposit up to $100. What's great is that you don't have to use it all at once, which is really nice. So make sure you sign up, use the code 5 FIVE. You don't not only do you not have to spend it all at once, but you can kind of when it comes to playing, you can mix and match players from different different leagues, different sports all together, right? Where you can do all of that. Here's how it works: you pick 2 to 5 players, okay, depending on how much you want to win. Then you play the over under on individual categories for each player. It all depends. Again, it all depends on how much you want to win. So make sure when you sign up, log in using the code 5 FIVE, and PrizePicks will match your initial deposit up to $100. It's PrizePicks.com, and use the code 5 FIVE. I definitely want to get everybody's take on this because, look, a lot of us, Danny, I know you don't make it down to these games often and whatnot, but listen, we all tailgated a lot in our lives, right? We've all done that. Blue, we still do that. Vish, you still do that. DJ, you do it up there whenever you get a chance to go to some of the games and whatnot. So for me, the atmosphere, especially down here in Miami, considering the struggles that we've had for so long, this is what really gets the people to come out. The kids, the students, the older people, the younger people, the babies, everybody. That's what they come out to for that Miami atmosphere of partying with the DJs and the barbecue. And it's a little bit different, right? It's not your tailgating in the Grove and at Ole Miss, right? It's not your tailgating at Tallahassee in the Civic Center. Like, it's different, right? Like, wherever it is that you go to, tailgating is different. We obviously have that, that Miami, vibe or whatever you want to call it down here. So it's a little bit different down here. And quite frankly, a lot of people, when they come down here, they love it, right? They love the way the tailgates go. So this whole situation now, apparently there's a lot of people that are a little frustrated with how the parking situation is settling out. Noticed that a lot of complaints because when they released the tickets for the parking in the orange section, apparently a lot of brokers just went and gobbled them a whole bunch, and now they're selling them at ridiculous prices on their sites. I got the yellow pass. It doesn't really matter to me. I don't care. I'll tailgate. I'll party anywhere. I'll hang out anywhere. No big deal. But a lot of people do complain about it, right? So if we want, let's do this. Let's put up the 2022 parking, and then we'll kind of go back and forth between that one and the 2021 one. But like, what is this a big deal to any of you? And we'll start off with you, Vish. Like, you've been a season ticket holder for forever. Is this a big deal? Do you notice a significant difference? Does this play into, you know, a lot of people are saying, well, they took away where I used to park and now I got to go park somewhere else. Like, is it going to be a big deal for a lot of these for the game day festivities, you think?
So shockingly, I'm going to defend Formula One watching the Apex next. But no, but more seriously, like actually there's more based on looking at the map. So this is the 2022 that we're looking at. This is 2021. It does look like there is actually more parking this year.
Yeah.
There's more orange lot. There's more green that's closer to the stadium. As Gary said last year, you know, this was the only green lot. And then if you look this year, all of this is the green lot. That other speck here is yellow now. There's more orange. So it appears like there's actually more parking. I think what happened, and I'm curious if anyone in the chat, you know, had an issue with actually retaining their parking. Because at least for me, like you said, I've been a season ticket holder forever. We've always had orange. Now go to 2019. Last year was a debacle. Okay, so 2020 like was COVID, so like no one was even there.
No one was there.
So that was not going to be an issue. So what I'm saying is, what changed from last year that is causing the complaint now? I know there used to be more parking. There used to be a tennis court.
Right, and the training facility.
Right, I mean, the training facility. So we've lost parking over time. I'm just looking at from last year, you know, I see more parking now than it was last year.
Looks like there's more parking.
But I think what happened is I think the rollout was messed up. At least I would be curious if anyone in the chat or anyone like had a color lot parking as part of their package and did not get the same color and got like downgraded.
Right,
because at least for me, we've always had orange. It just renewed the orange pass.
Right,
and they did send us an email saying if you want to buy additional passes, you need to do so now. And I think there was a very short notice between that and them releasing it to the general public. I think that's where the issue probably is. Because as you mentioned, brokers scooped up a bunch of them. Because I can tell you for me, you know, even we have season tickets, so they auto renew. But anytime I'm trying to organize this, you got to call like 10 people. Like, hey, are you in? Are you out?
It's a pain in the ass.
You know, you got to figure. It's all this logistical stuff. By the time you get that done, they've already released them out into the public. And then, like you said, the ticket brokers pick them. So like that caused, I think, a lot of problems because people like organized around it. And then by the time they kind of got into a situation where, you know, okay, we want to go get this, is gone. And like you said, now they're being marked up. Now Gary's pointing out maroon. Let's take a look at that. So this is the maroon now.
Right.
Oops, that was the wrong screen.
I parked in the blue last year, I think.
I mean, this looks like a better.
That's mostly media as well.
So I don't understand why the maroon is.
Oh, so the maroon was that strip of grass right by the canal there.
Yeah, but that was last year. This year, it's like so this is last year. This year, they've actually moved it close to the stadium. I guess that's my point. Like, the parking appears to be better. It's not as good as it was before they turned it into an entire sports complex where they put a training complex and because the whole thing used to just be an empty parking lot. Now there's all sorts of other stuff there, but
it looks better this year than last year.
Yeah, so I think but I think it was more the rollout maybe of doing it, and I think more people are frankly trying to go this year.
And the thing that I noticed is they like consolidated it all instead of having it spread out because you had the maroon all the way out toward, as Jazz said, out near the canal.
Yeah,
right.
See, so everything's moved in now.
Yeah, it looks like everything.
So it's all consolidated. I don't think that there's any less parking. I just think it's just redistributed.
So, Gary, I mean, I'm looking at unless like I'm looking at something wrong here. 2022.
We're looking at
it's
the
on the
actual
official
website.
website.
Yeah, so.
I mean, I can only go with that.
I think
there's more yellow.
Yeah, there is more yellow.
Yeah, there's more yellow.
Well, I think that's where the issue came in. Okay, I don't know what to tell you, Gary. I'm just looking at the map. That's all live.
Yeah. All right. Well, look.
Maybe it's what you guys said. Maybe they're getting gobbled up
Well, there was definitely a lot of people complaining that they, by the time they tried to get in, their only thing left was yellow.
The brokers will be eating Cheerios for the first 2 games if they're going to sell those for Bethune and Southern Miss.
Well, I think they'd probably try to sell the whole season. That's why.
Yeah, that's going to be tough.
That's going to be that is going to be tough.
And it's a Florida State home season, so that's where they make all their money.
They can sell that ticket alone and make their money.
Yeah, I mean that's what they'll do. It's the Florida State game. That's where the tailgating goes into overdrive.
Yep. I mean, look, for me, man, tailgating is what it is. Like okay, so now you're in the yellow lot. All right, so now everybody just goes to the yellow lot and hangs out there. Or now you're in the orange lot. Like I've always been a stickler when it comes to tailgating. I'm not a person who moves around a lot. I kind of like to stick to one specific area because if you spend the whole time walking around this big ass stadium, you're gonna waste so much time. Whereas you can sit down and chill or hang out with a bunch of close friends or whatever, and kind of hang out like that, have a couple of drinks or whatever, eat something, listen to some music, and then you're on your way. So I think at the end of the day, I think people are just a little upset because of the whole thing where the brokers kind of gobbled up, like you said, right. A bunch of those tickets and are now selling them at crazy prices. But you know what? This year is going to be that year where I don't think it's going to matter. Hopefully, especially if the team is competitive and they're winning and there's excitement, everybody's going to come out. It's going to be packed. It's going to be sold out, and they're just going to party and tailgate wherever they can, and that's it. And drive together, right? Because obviously, it's not like you got to drive in together. If not, you're screwed. Right?
Exactly.
I think that's always been the case, though.
Yeah. You got to do that. Don't. I don't want any. People shouldn't expect to do it any other way. But
if you're not the main guy in the tailgate, and there's a few like people bring their cars or trucks, whatever it is, and set up their tents. Now, if you're just bringing in some beers and drinks and stuff like that, and you're going to meet everybody, then it won't be a hassle for you. You just call them and ask where they are. But if you're going to be an integral part, you're right. You got to all meet down the road and then drive in together. Meet across the street over at Walmart, and then just you got to come in together, because if not, then you're and those parking, the people have that direct you to park. They're basically brain dead most of the time. So
they're the worst. It's so true. It's like talking to a wall with them.
The year that they had the COVID, I think 2 years ago, whatever it was, I would get there and they would make me get out of my car as soon as I parked. Wow. Because they were so afraid you were gonna pop open something and have a hamburger. I mean, they were. Yeah, so I remember that the guy was like a Gestapo. He was sitting.
In the COVID year, yeah. That was
awful. But last year it eased up a lot, and then, like you guys are right though. I mean, if you're gonna, that's part of the deal. I mean, it's if you're going to get, go to the game. People, we're going to go and watch a game, but it's a couple of hours before, maybe a few hours after, that people kind of wait for the traffic to subside and, crank back up the barbecue and have them, a lot of them have those generators and watch TVs and, and that's, to me, that's the tailgate experience. You get there when they open, you start the grills and you start everything going and, you party out and you have a good time and get yourself all primed for the game. You go in for the game, watch it, and then come back out. And like I said, tons of times I would come out, like at the end of the game, and there'd be people just, in the same spots where I was doing their thing. But that's the experience. People have to understand that, you just don't buy a ticket, go to the game, and that's it. If you're really, it's the experience. It's part of the football experience, I think.
Really quick, and we'll get off of this topic. We'll talk about
just real quick. So Gary did send me what they emailed out as a map, and I'd have to open up my Twitter DMs. I'm not going to do that.
But it is
the call here,
different?
but the distinct the big difference is exactly what he mentioned, which is what they'd emailed out was basically the maroon lot was still a strip, and this was all black, and I think this black and blue was oriented a little different. So they kind of shrunk the black down, made this whole thing maroon, probably because, just like his friend, they got a bunch of complaints that the maroon lot was essentially, I think, still this. in what they had emailed out. So it looks like they took this black lot and shrunk it. So they might have changed it up after probably getting some complaints.
Yeah, but they changed it up, Vish. But at the same time, I think it looks like it's more parking. It's just more consolidated, and things aren't so spread out. And I think that's a good thing, because I think that you'll have an opportunity. Because I remember people, especially where the porta potties are set up, they're like a hike from, if you're out near the canal. I mean, it'd take you a better part of an hour just to go to the bathroom. So,
I mean, if you're out by the canal, nature's bathroom is right there.
Yeah, well, I didn't say in the canal. I just said around
it. Unless, choose wisely, but there's one bodily function that you could easily do in the grass on the side, kind of out of the way without waiting for the porta potty. So
yeah,
I'll just leave it at that.
One quick thing before we move on, and I want to kind of get everybody's, and obviously let's not make it too long so we can kind of go on to the scrimmage, but one recent memory, one of the best memories you have tailgating. DJ, we'll start with you, man.
The best memories I have tailgating, I often don't remember. But one in particular was up here in New England. But before the Patriots game, it was a big game against the Falcons. The year that they won the Super Bowl, came back 28-3. The atmosphere was absolutely electric, and the stadium was electric, and I had a great time. And it was a good time. It was cold. I'm getting jealous of all these warm weather tailgating stories, but I still had a really good time.
Blue, what's your fondest memory tailgating?
Oklahoma FSU national championship game.
Oh, wow.
I actually shared a beverage with Brian Bosworth and Barry Switzer. They were both there, and they stopped by, and we there was a big, because I mean, I can say it now, but I bet heavily on that game. And that's why I hate FSU even worse now. So,
was that the year? Was that the year that
the year that they sucked it up, and they were like they were for sure. Not only were they going to cover, but they were going to destroy them, and it didn't happen that way. So but that one was, but the tailgate was great. I wish they would have had it after, because then I could have forgotten all that what happened during the game. But it was good. It was great. I mean, they had everything, in the tailgate area where all these people showed up from both FSU and Oklahoma, and kind of where everyone was sharing stuff. I mean, so I like that. I mean, you go into the game, and I was, you got to walk straight.
That's the hardest part, to walk straight.
That's why you eat a lot too.
Vish, what's yours, man?
I've got several, because
I know. So do I. I've got something. I've got something I don't want to mention.
Yeah, you triggered this memory for me. So you mentioned like how big the stadium is, and this is obviously when it was before they put all the other stuff in place. So I was with my group, and one of my other friends like, hey, you want to meet for a second? So I was like, sure. Went over, talked to him for like 5 minutes, and then I got my East and West mixed up. I don't know. We were like in W23, but I thought it was E. And I walked like all the way to the other side of the stadium. I was like completely like, I couldn't find anyone, but then I did. And needless to say, I was not in control of all my faculties. Let's just put it nicely. I might have had a few for that mistake to come out in the first place.
So by the time you found everybody, the game was over.
Yeah. I was gonna say, you start out partying in one place and you end up the next, and
on the other side of the stadium, and then but then the kicker to the story is, so as I'm walking around, I'm like, at some point I realized, oh crap, I'm on the exact wrong side of the stadium. I got to walk all the way back. As I started doing that, I run into the Orange Bowl mascot. So I took a picture with the.
There you go, OB and OB.
Yeah, OB was there. So that was my tip. Everyone else was like, when I got back there, I was gone for like an hour and a half. Where'd you go and all this? I was like, no, I took a picture with Obi. So
those are good times.
That was a good excuse to say that you were lost.
No, I had to go find Obi. That's the story. I
can imagine that Jazz has some pretty good ones. I'm sure he gets in that party atmosphere pretty quick.
I used to, man. I can't do it anymore. I don't last. Look, the last time I don't want to say the last time I went hard at a tailgate, but one of the last times that I went hard at a tailgate was 2013 Miami, Florida. When they played the Gators down here, and they opened the gates at 6:00 in the morning. It was a 12 o'clock game, and we got to the stadium at 5:50 in the morning. Yeah, and that's exactly when the first can of Bud Light was opened up. And honestly, like by 8 o'clock, like nobody knew where the hell they were standing already. It was absolute mayhem, and this it was still 4 hours before the game started. It was absolutely crazy. The sun had just gotten up, but everybody was just partying so hard, starting at 6 o'clock in the morning. And of course, so I don't want to mention why, but I missed half the game, and when I woke up to the Tracy Howard interception. I'm not literally woke up. I don't think.
Hear about that, Jazz?
Yeah. It was fun. Let's just put it that way. Tracy Howard was my friend that day, and the Canes winning was,
nice.
Obviously was great also. But yeah, I've got some great ones at Doak Campbell also, man. Kirby Freeman and Dietrich Epps. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that.
There's some names from the past right there.
Two best players in Canes history right there, winning it all for the.
I'll tell you those are like my memories, but the absolute best tailgate that I was part of, but I really couldn't take part of it, was back in 1979 in LSU. You talk about craziness. 7:30 game. They were there at 7:30 in the morning. 12 hours. Those Cajuns just ripped it up. And I'm telling you, I'm thinking to myself, no way. I wouldn't even last an hour over there. I mean, they're drinking this stuff that they just brewed the night before, and oh my gosh, those Cajuns can party. But that and the University of Tennessee were the two loudest stadiums I've ever been in. I went to Neyland Stadium in Tennessee for the USC game in 1979, and Willie Gault, I don't know if you remember Willie, he returned the opening kickoff 100 yards, and the stadium was moving. I mean, it was literally moving, and I said, "Oh, geez."
Well, listen, the Orange Bowl moved, but it wasn't because of that. It just felt like it was going to fall apart. But look, Gus is in the chat. Gus was with me at that FSU game up in Doak when Kirby Freeman threw that touchdown pass to Dietrich Epps. Unbelievable that is how we beat FSU that year with Kirby Freeman as our quarterback.
I mean, I was there when we did the it's more recent, the Rozier to Langholm play, which is another.
That's awesome.
10 years from now, you're gonna be like those two guys, because that was pretty much. I mean, that was it for that.
Well, it's
their career highlights.
That was when I decided I'm never going back there again. By the way, I was like, you know what? I'm not topping this. There's no reason for me to.
Yeah, I haven't gone back since then either.
I was like, that's it. I'm not topping this memory.
Okay, so speaking of that, right? Because obviously, the stadium's going to get crunk, right? It's going to get crazy in a couple of weeks. I don't care if it's Bethune-Cookman or if it's FSU. Like the stadium's going to be packed.
Bethune-Cookman's great for people like us that also care about the game.
Absolutely,
because you don't got to worry about it. So you can really enjoy the tailgate, not have to worry that we're going to go lose to Michigan State after this or something. You don't have to worry about that. So.
But it's going to be fun. There's going to be a lot of people there. Bethune-Cookman always brings a nice crowd. You know, you got a lot of people from South Florida that are Bethune-Cookman grads, or that that went to school up there,
or that played for them,
right? Or that played for them. So I think it's going to be a fun game. But there's a lot of work to be done before then, right? And as we know, we just had a scrimmage this past Saturday night, and there's a lot of different things coming out from that scrimmage. Here's what I like about that they didn't do. Okay, this is the thing that I like the most, because we got accustomed to different coaches here kind of putting out stats, right? And Malik Rozier was 10 or 15 for 150 yards and 4 touchdowns, and he threw all 4 to Mike Harley and to whatever, right? Whatever it was, like we got accustomed to hearing that. We got accustomed to hearing, the running back, whoever the running back was, ran for 100 yards. But then you hear 4 sacks from Greg Rousseau, whatever it is, right? And you're like, well, I mean, it sounds like before you would hear that, you'd be like, well, this doesn't sound good, or this sounds great. But last year, you heard a lot of the offense kicking the defense's butt, right, in the scrimmages, and you're like, well, does that mean that the offense is really good or the defense is really bad? And we kind of noticed that the defense wasn't great. My thing is, I love when they're not talking about stats, right? I love that they're not talking about stats, but I also love, because I think that we can all kind of echo the sentiment, is the defense was dominating in the scrimmage, and the defense should be dominating, especially in the first scrimmage against the offense. When they light up and they put the pads on, I think you want the defense to be in front. What did you hear, Larry, based off of people talking, people saying certain things, and obviously what you know about certain guys that were surprising and certain aspects of the scrimmage that you liked, that you heard that were good, and that you heard that weren't so good?
Well, first of all, when you're talking about news coming out of that camp, it's a whole different atmosphere now. I mean, Mario came in and he laid down the law to everybody. If anything gets out and we find out who it is, we'll trace it back and you're gone type of stuff. So, see, Manny Diaz wasn't like that. Al Golden wasn't like that. Everyone always said, "Oh, whatever happens inside these halls stay in," but they never did. But now they are quite a bit, unless somebody who plays. Because remember, the media can't even get in significant times. Like a long time ago. I mean, there's a lot of schools now that are loosening it up. Miami's not. But I heard is the offensive line, obviously, a couple of injuries, still needs a lot of work. And we knew this, and we knew that, coming out of spring, that, everyone's talking about the future. And, yeah, the future tends to be pretty decent with some studs. But right now you still have what you have. You had a few additions in the offseason, and we've talked about them in the depth chart before the season starts, but there's still a problem. I mean, I don't know if Bethune's going to expose that or even Southern Mississippi, but they've got to get healthy. They've got to have some depth. They've got to understand that if they're going to run the ball and do it successfully, this line has to work. I mean, it just has to. So that was one of the things I heard, that the offensive line still, a work in progress, but albeit they get a little bit of a pass because not everybody's there and healthy. But still, you still want your backups, just like everyone was talking about the Dolphins the other night. And I said, yeah, you still want your backups to perform. So, right. And then and something that we talked about before is Xavier Restrepo. You could say what you want, and people have since he was in youth football. And when he went to high school, when he started out at Monarch, and then we went to St. Thomas, and he went to Deerfield, people are, oh, he's a small white kid, it's not going to do anything. But that's not necessarily the truth. This is a kid that works harder than anybody. And I'll say that. He works harder than anybody on that football field, is backed up by everybody. In game time and scrimmage time, it shows. He had an awesome scrimmage the other night. Everybody who I talked to said all he did was advance the ball and move the sticks. And how can you not be pleased with that? I mean, as not only as a head coach, but as an offensive coordinator who's trying to put in his new system in here, and and as a quarterback like Van Dyke or whoever, or Jake, that here's the offense and you have a catalyst. Because right now, and I've said it before, Miami still doesn't have that number one. And if that number one is going to come from the tight end position, or it's going to come from your slot, so be it. But you have to go in there with somebody that's going to come into the huddle, and you're going to call his number and feel darn confident he'll be open, and he's going to get either take it the distance or at least get you 25, 30 yards. So that's what I heard. Defensively, I heard Caleb Johnson's a terror on wheels. And we talked about, all four of us talked about that in in our shows prior to the opening of camp. And then as you guys illustrated, Mario had an opportunity to watch him when he was at Oregon. So he's been doing extremely well. Their secondary is James Williams. They said James is, because I keep wanting to put James Williams into the box, and everybody goes, oh no, he's killing it right now. And they're trying to find a way to get James, Alvante, and Kinchins on the field all at once. And, and that's what they're working on now. I heard they were in, I think, maybe 3-4 plays together, which has to work out. I mean, there can't be a negative out of that. And the defense, linebacker-wise, is still a work in progress. From what I heard, they need to fly to the ball more. Wayman Steed's had actually a pretty good camp and into the summer. So that's what I've heard so far.
Yeah, I'm like, so the only places that I'm really truly concerned with per se is, and concern is a strong word, really, but I think that, like you said, Blue, we need to find that wide receiver one, right? And so there has been some reports that it looks like Keyshawn Smith is starting to separate himself, um, in at that position as a wide receiver one. But right now, it's still it's the Xavier Restrepo show.
Yeah.
He's shown he's had an amazing camp. Um, if you'd probably have to put the top 5 receivers right now, there you go, dropping everything again still. Um, if you'd have to, the top 5 receivers, from what I understand at camp, are probably more like Keyshawn Smith, Restrepo, Frank Latson is supposedly having a pretty good camp. Brashard Smith and Romello Brinson, those are your top 5. With the other guys kind of catching up a little bit. So, but like you said, a wide receiver one has to pop out of that group in order for, I think, for this team to really kind of be successful. Because yeah, you can have the tight end be your wide receiver one, you can have Restrepo be your wide receiver one, but typically a lot of these big time schools have that guy on the outside that could just go, right? That
first round draft pick corners type
right.
guy.
I mean, and it happens everywhere. Even even in Georgia, I know Georgia didn't have. They had George Pickens, and I understand he didn't play all year, and he got hurt in the national championship game. But he's an absolute stud. Look what he's doing in Pittsburgh now. He's killing it in Pittsburgh, right? So they even had a guy like that. So they have probably, and now they have possibly the number 1 tight end in the country as well. In that Bowers kid or whatever's Brock Bowers kid, who's an absolute stud also. So I think what separates us still is Tyler Van Dyke. And regardless of whether the defense was as dominant as what I heard that they were, by the way, the defensive line apparently looked like they were absolutely dominant. Akeem Mesidor was a stud. Mitchell Agude played really well. You got some really good play from Jacob Lichtenstein. Notice how I'm calling out all the transfer guys, right?
Yeah.
But listen, that's what they came in for, right? That's what they came in for.
Because people will be bitching if they weren't doing good, Jazz. Everybody, all the fans would be bitching right now.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So
why'd you get him? Why is he here? And we wasted our time. So absolutely. Yeah, that's a good thing.
So with that being said, right, Vish and Danny will go to you guys on this, and I mentioned TVD because there's a lot of people out there that are also saying, well, you don't necessarily need to win a national title with the best quarterback in the country. Okay, and I know we're throwing out Stetson Bennett in there, right? But they also had arguably the best defense that we've ever seen in college football last year also, okay? And that's obviously, we're putting it up there with the 0-1 team and some of the other teams that have had amazing defenses, but they arguably had one of the best, if not the best, defense in college football last year ever. Okay, so that kind of hides a lot of the stuff that Stetson Bennett doesn't do well. However, you got a quarterback like Tyler Van Dyke, defense needs to play well. Is this exciting to you, Vish? That the defense is dominating right now and the offense is still playing a little catch up. Yeah, I know the offensive line is having their issues, or they're still trying to get together and kind of add that cohesiveness in that group. But how do you feel about that first scrimmage?
I mean, I'm okay with it, especially since the offensive line is still getting pieced together. Like, not having Zion Nelson, I mean, he's the anchor, right? So then the whole line shuffles and you have issues. I don't think it's a great sign because as much as, we like all the guys you mentioned, all these transfers coming in, I don't think we really coming into like the summer thought, wow, this defense is going to be elite to the point that the offense isn't getting their punches in. And so I think the level, again, this is based on reports. I didn't go watch scrimmage, but the level of domination we're hearing about is a little concerning, especially since we're putting in a new offense. There's a lot to work through in a couple of weeks now. As Blue said, like Bethune-Cookman's not going to expose anything, so not that worried about that. And there is actually more time to develop that cohesiveness. But I'd say my biggest concern is kind of the offensive line. And I know what you said about, and it's probably true if you go through like the history of teams that win championships. how many of them had like the most talented quarterback, right? Or the number one pick and like the top pick, the top quarterback drafted? Basically never, right? It very rarely happens. But so, like, I still rather have the better quarterback. Like, what are we talking about?
Yeah.
Like, it's just that in college, unlike in the NFL, where, you know, you're not playing a game where you have to balance your assets. The reason that NFL, you need the elite quarterback is you get your money into that position, and then you have to go cheap everywhere else because you got to manage your salary cap. In college, you can get a 5-star at every position if you can swing it. So it's just a different way you build a team out. But Van Dyke will paper over a lot of these cracks. We're talking about, like, can a receiver establish himself? Well, we weren't really – I don't know who had, you know, Rambo having the year he had last year at this time. So they can emerge and you know, having one of the best quarterbacks in the country is certainly a good thing. So I'm less worried about that. I figure with Mallory, with Restrepo, if Gaddis is, you know, we're talking about the guy who was assistant coach of the year last year in college football. You give me that combination with Van Dyke. I know Citizen got hurt, but our running back pool is still very deep. I figure they'll be able to figure stuff out as long as the offensive line can block. So that was the one. Like, that's the thing, that it doesn't matter how good your play calling is, how good your skill players off. The offensive line can't block. You're very limited. So to me, that's the only concern. I'm not really worried about the number one receiver establishing himself. To me, that'll work itself out given all of the skill position overall talent. It's just got to get Zion back and kind of get some cohesiveness on that offensive line.
And by the way, DVD was getting some of his licks in, right? I mean, when you have a quarterback like that, he's going to be able to do some things regardless of what defense is out there. He's that good of a player. Here's where I see this being a plus for us, is not necessarily having that wide receiver one yet, but I think one will emerge. And DJ, I kind of want you to talk about, you know, some of the stuff here when I'm through here. But I think Tyler Van Dyke can create that wide receiver one, right? And I think that he will be able to. He's so talented that. And like Vish mentioned, I don't think we saw Charleston Ramble do, you know, what he did at the beginning of the season. We didn't think that was going to be him. We knew Mike Harley had it in him to kind of, you know, hey, be that slot guy, that go-to guy that's going to catch a lot of passes. But I mean, we established a guy like Ramble. If you see some of the windows, if you see some of the throws that TVD made to Charleston Ramble, along with obviously him stepping up his level of play, Ramble, you saw what we can get out of a guy like Ramble and like a guy like Keyshawn Smith, right? You're going to see that because I think at the end of the day, he's going to put them in a position where they're going to be very successful. He's going to put them in a position where they're going to succeed, and they're going to be able to step up their game and try to match the level with TVD. And that's just because of how good TVD is. It's going to make everything great around him, right? Yeah, I mean, look, when we had some of our best teams, obviously Ken Dorsey was an absolute mastermind, right? Didn't have the strongest arm, wasn't the greatest with his legs. Okay, none of that, right? He was a smart, cerebral quarterback, can get the ball in the right places, but he had Andre Johnson, right? He had some of those big names that you want. I think this is the other way around. This is TVD now with some of these guys that he's going to make great. And so I think it's going to be interesting to see what that wide receiver room does end up being like. And yeah, the offensive line needs to kind of get it together. Jalen Rivers looks like the real deal. I think he's going to end up being one of the guards as soon as Zion comes back around and gets healthy. But I think that it's okay. I'm not too concerned about the offense. I still think that they made some plays. They're going to have to run the ball, and I think that Josh Gaddis is going to do everything that he can to kind of make this offense as multiple as possible, get guys in the right position to play, to be successful. DJ, how do you feel about, what DVD can kind of bring to this offense, considering nobody has kind of separated themselves as wide receiver one, and of course, and we keep talking about wide receivers because we have such a great running back stable, even with the injury to Trevante Citizen. And Isaiah Horton did get a little banged up in the wide receivers. He's having a great camp also. I think he's going to be fine. But talk to me a little bit about your take on that offense and what TVD is going to be able to do for that offense as a whole.
He allows the offense to kind of play to their strengths and not force things. And with this new group of wide receivers, he can help them and kind of understand their tendencies. You know, he's a quarterback that you trust behind center. So as an offensive coordinator, you can call plays that can get, 4 or 5 yards, depending on the situation, each time. And you don't have to worry because you know that you can have a quarterback that can get the football. He's a type of quarterback that can play to a player's strengths, and he's a type of quarterback where you don't feel like, oh, I have to go for, a big play every single time, or else, this offense is never going to do anything. He's a type of player that can, make those wide receivers and tight ends around him better, and he's the type of quarterback that offensive coordinators love because he takes what's given to him, and that will make his receivers in turn feel comfortable as well. And through that, maybe we can see a top wide receiver emerge. But he's the type of quarterback that plays to the receiver's strengths and can make those throws. And so I feel confident that a top wide receiver will emerge sooner rather than later.
Shout out to Freddie Tapia, who's watching from Puerto Rico today. Thanks for the dono, man. We appreciate that. 305. Thanks for that little donation there. Are we going to get into a donation war here like we did at Hitting the Apex a few weeks ago? Gary, Gus, where the hell are you at, man? Get it together. But real quick, Blue, before we kind of move on to just a couple of questions I have for everybody on the defense. Tell me, and I've been hearing this a lot lately, Blue, the coach that is going to make Tyler Van Dyke that much better doesn't coach the offense. The guy that's going to make Tyler Van Dyke a better quarterback this is what I'm hearing, is Kevin Steele. And the reason why is because he's going to throw so many different things at him. He's going to make him think. He's going to make him react to all the different sets that Steele's going to be put out there, and all the different places where the players are going to come from, the player, the rush is going to come from, how he's going to disguise everything, what type of personnel is going to be out there. Kevin Steele is a mastermind when it comes to that. That's what he's going to throw at him the whole time, which is in turn going to make him prepared so that when any other team out there in the country comes out and sets up in a specific set, I mean, it's going to be easy for Tyler Van Dyke. Is Kevin Steele the guy that's going to make him the best coach, the best player, a better quarterback?
Well, I think he's going to, give him that opportunity to, see a lot of different schemes and different coverages, but it's going to be up to Frank Ponce and to Coach Gaddis to counteract that and say, hey, listen, after watching some film, when you see this and when you see that, this is what you got to do. This is the key that you got to do. So they have to, they have to keep right up with Steele. But yeah, I understand your point. He's going to put him in that situation where he's going to have his back to the wall, and then he's going to have to do a little bit of thinking. But that thinking also has to come from your coordinator, your offensive coordinator, and your quarterback coach, which Miami really didn't have last year. I mean, they have one guy who is both things. And this year when you have two minds that have been at a high level before and that have seen, anything that Kevin Steele is going to bring. I'm sure that Ohio State did it last year. And I'm sure that, even when they play Wisconsin, who always has great defensive schemes, that's what I'm trying to say. I mean, it's going to be up to Steele to kind of set the table, but it's going to also be up to Coach Gaddis and to Coach Ponce to, correct that for him too as well. But you're right. He's going to push him. I don't think he was pushed a whole lot last year.
Yep. No, I agree. I think that's why I think that iron's going to sharpen iron there, right? So they're going to see those sets, and then now Gaddis and Ponce are going to have to react, and it's just going to make them that much better. And I don't think that they had that opportunity, like you said, last year. So let's give a shout out to our sponsor. We'll end with some defensive talk really quick, and then we'll get everybody out of here. But I definitely want to give a shout out to our second sponsor of the night, and it's Manscaped, baby. Fellas, this is This is awesome because fantasy football draft season is right around the corner, right? CeeDee Lamb is good, but have you seen these beautiful balls? It's time to get your snake looking right for the snake draft with the sponsor of today's show. I love all these innuendos and puns, man. This is great. Manscaped, baby, the leader in below the waist grooming, have created a championship lineup with the Performance Package 4.0. Join the 6 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped and get ready for kickoff by going to manscaped.com for 20% off plus free shipping with the code 5RSN. So it's the number 5 RSN. Use that code for 20% off plus free shipping. Here's how it works, right? You get 20% off plus free shipping with the code at manscaped.com. And you get the weed whacker. It's also waterproof. Don't forget the crop preserver, the lawnmower 4.0, the performance package 4.0. It's a 4th generation trimmer that also features cutting edge ceramic blades to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin safe technology. Make sure you guys check that all out. It's manscaped.com. It's time to put the PP back in PPR and get a grip on your pigskin this season with Manscaped.
Nice. Well done. Well done. And let me tell you something. These things should be flying off the shelves. They really should. I mean, everybody kind of like, we snicker and stuff like that, but when it's time to do the business, you want everything to be looking good and smelling good. And they have the colognes and stuff for down under and everything. So, and speaking about down under, I had Frankie Tenelou on the show the other night.
Did you really?
What a great This kid was the best. I swear he stole the show. And
he is awesome. We've had him on the show. He's great. Yeah.
Huh?
We've had him on the show also. He is great.
Yeah, I'll tell you what though, he's a kid that's got it all under control, and he's excited and a little bit homesick, but at the same time he's trying to embrace the Cuban food as opposed to Vegemite and all that other stuff that you eat in Australia. But I told him that I've had Vegemite and I can't stand it, and he goes, I will guarantee by the time I get to school you'll like it. That's what he said. So
okay,
we'll see. Well, it's gonna have to put. It's like liver. You're gonna have to put a bunch of ketchup on top of that thing for me to consume it.
Yeah, I ate liver as a young kid when my grandmother used to make it too. And
no thanks.
I'll pass. When we had him on the show, yeah, Danny doesn't like that. I don't think anybody does, man.
The Liver King likes it though. That's who likes it.
We had Frankie on the show, and he was actually talking to us from Australia.
Oh,
and
wow.
That was crazy. It was morning, right? He was driving to, where was he? He was driving to school or driving somewhere with his family.
He was driving to school, I think.
I got a little mixed up because I know, but I wasn't like realizing that they drive on the other side of the road. So he was sitting in the passenger seat, like talking up, like, dude, are you driving? Like, pull over.
He was with family.
He was on the front left, but that is
17-hour difference. But it's he's such a good guy, and he's embracing the opportunity. And the one picture that they have going around with him when he was in Mario's office, it just kind of gives you an opportunity to see how big he is, because Mario's not a small guy, and he was towering over him. And he just embraces it. And the thing that's good is going to high school here, which is going to give him that full year to get acclimated with the area, which is awesome. I mean, and he's having a good time, and they have a kid that Miami should have looked at a long time ago, Dario Melendez, who's given him fits, he says. And
the kid that he's committed to East Carolina, or
Coastal Carolina.
Coastal Carolina, yep. Yeah,
but the kid's a big-time kid, and we didn't get a chance to see him. But, this week I'll get a opportunity to see a bunch of games. Tomorrow I'm going to go see Gulliver Prep. And also Berlin, who has a couple of kids as well. The Marcelin kid, who's really nice. And then I'll get a chance to, on Friday, see or tomorrow, get a chance to see a real good 3-team jamboree. You got Miami Palmetto, so I'll get to see the Washington brothers and others. And then Chaminade, who could have Miami's future lining up at wide receiver, and Jeremiah Smith and Josiah Trader, as well as Cardinal Gibbons. So and then St. Thomas is playing their little scrimmage game against themselves on Saturday. And then next week, when we open, we got a full week because you have those 7 teams that are coming across the country. And like Los Alamitos, California is going to be playing, and St. Joe's. Then they're going to all be 3 games will be at St. Thomas a week from Saturday. 2 of them will be on ESPN. So for a change, our teams in South Florida don't have to go anywhere, and they get an opportunity to play a St. John's out of Washington, D.C., or a St. Joe's, or schools like that. So, and we'll have a pretty decent report on that.
Absolutely. Yeah, we definitely look forward to that. Not only that, but we're going to have some coming up in the next couple of weeks, right? We're going to have a pregame show for you guys as well. We'll, if we can
find a place to park. Yes.
Right. Exactly. if we can get a post game, we can try to do that as well. But we'll definitely have some exclusive content for you there. As you heard Blue just talk about, foreshadowing that Jeremiah Smith and Josiah Trader are going to be Miami Hurricanes. Oh man, from your mouth to God's ears, because Jeremiah Smith is the truth, and Trader
both of them are,
and Trader is not too far behind. So I know that Smith has been talking to Ohio State a lot, but who knows? Who knows? There's a lot of time left. It's recruiting. Nobody does it better than Larry Bluestein, and we'll definitely have some more recruiting information coming up for you. Some updates next week, next Wednesday, and might have a player or 2. Who knows?
Yeah, just before we wrap up, shout out to everyone in the chat. I appreciate the comments. I will not be sharing them, but
oh man, the comments are great. If you the one from Gary's is great.
I will say this one was about the football team, but also applies to Manscaped.
Yeah,
both sides of the ball will get better with the huge upgrade. So get that 4.0.
Yes.
Real talk there, man. Those are facts. Thank you, everybody, for joining the show. Make sure you tune in every Wednesday night at 8:30 p.m. here on the 5 Reasons Sports YouTube channel. Check us out on Twitter at six Rings Canes on Twitter, and of course on the podcast as well, 6 Rings Canes podcast. Make sure you check us out on Google or wherever it is that you get your podcast there. Thank you again so much. We'll definitely see you guys. We've got some exciting stuff for you next Wednesday. We'll have some giveaways also. Gift card giveaways. Stay tuned on Twitter for that. Know how you can kind of set yourself up to win some of those gift cards for to get you ready for the season, baby, to get you some gear. So we'll talk about that, and we will also talk about some great ideas we have for how can I say it? Look, Greg just showed up. So how can I say it? For a possible watch party for Texas A&M as well, for all the guys that are gonna, all the guys and girls that are gonna be down here watching the game. So we'll definitely give you guys some info on that. So stay tuned for next Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. and we'll see you guys there, or we'll see you guys here. See you guys later.
Also, hitting the apex.
I leave that up to you, Vish. That's yours, baby. That's yours.
Wait, but we have a real guest, so. We have Elizabeth Blackstock from Jalopnik and Donut Media joining us. So nice. we have a legitimate racing person. So definitely.
Have you ever had Ryan Hunter Ray on yet?
Oh,
not yet.
Cardinal Gibbons grad.
Ah, look at that! I didn't know that.
Sounds like Blue might be able to hook us up.
Yeah,
maybe.
Use your connections, man.
Thank you guys, and we'll see you guys next week. But make sure you tune in. Hitting the Apex starts now on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. See you guys.